Since I started my education, I have been to three different elementary schools, three different intermediate/middle schools, and two high schools. And besides the obvious hardships of moving schools so often, one of the biggest problems that I faced was the different writing standards between all of the schools. And the most challenging of which that I've experienced in regards to writing was moving from my first high school to my second one. The first high school I attended, the standards were not all that high because it was a military school that I went to in Japan. However, the second school that I went to was a decently ranked school in California where I felt like I had to work twice as hard to get the same grades that I used to get at my first school. The school I attended in Japan was very small, which made it so that not many classes could be given besides the general education classes because there just wouldn't be enough students to make the class worthwhile. I would know pretty much everyone in my grade and the grade above me because it was like a small town where everyone knows each other. But when I moved to my school in California, I hardly even knew anyone in my grade, much less the grade above me. I felt like I had been transported to the future, just staring in awe of all the people moving in front of me. My grade alone had the same amount of students that there had been in my entire school in Japan. After I got over the initial shock of moving here, I got used to the flow of how the school worked, just like I had done in all my previous schools. But there is no way that I could have predicted what would happen next. I still remember getting my first essay grade handed back to me. My heart dropped, and the rest of the world seemed to fade away while I was consumed with looking at the failing grade that was at the top of my paper. Before this moment, I had thought of myself as a decent writer, not great, but definitely not someone who would fail an essay. I also remember how bad I felt when I got home that day, and then I realized I would have to tell my parents about what had happened. After I actually got around to telling my parents, they told me that I should go and ask my teacher what she was looking for that I missed out in my paper so I can improve in the future. However, this was fairly hard for me because I am a very shy person who doesn't like talking to other people very much, never mind teachers, but nevertheless I realized that eventually I would have to talk to her. And I did do just that, the only thing being that I waited until another essay was assigned and I had gotten my grade back to do this. Now, I did better on this essay, but still not the grade that I was used to getting when I went to my school in Japan. So after school one day, I went up to my teacher and asked her if I could talk to her real quickly about what she wants to see from me and what she thinks that I am doing correctly in my writing. I could still remember the whole time that I was talking to her, my leg wouldn't quit bopping up and down because I was so nervous because I had never taken any steps to ask my teachers for help before this moment. He- he- Hello, Mrs. Oidna. Do you have a few seconds to talk about my writing? I said softly. Yes, of course. I would love to help you with anything that you need. Now, is there anything specifically that you wanted to talk about regarding the essay? Uh, I was just wondering what you were looking for grading wise that I am missing out on my papers for me to be getting these low grades. She responded, well, I think that overall your writing is consistent for this level, but where I think you fall short is understanding the prompt and therefore writing a thesis and main points that support the question that the prompt is trying to get after. I understand it must be hard being new and having different writing standards everywhere, and luckily I think that this issue is an easy one to fix if you are just willing to put in a little extra time towards getting to the bottom of what the essential question is in the prompt. Okay, thank you for the help. I think that this information will be very beneficial to me later on in my writing this year, and I hope that you will start to see an improvement in my writing, I said, standing straight up, now having a boost of confidence. After this talk, I went back home and told my parents what she was looking for, and they helped me understand and put those ideas into practice since my mom was a teacher and good at English and writing. The whole rest of the semester, I was playing catch up with my grade, doing little assignments here and there to try and boost it. And in the end, I finished with a grade I was proud of considering my start, but I still wasn't satisfied that I was doing my best work, and so I continued to try and improve on my papers each time that I was assigned a new one. The next and final semester, I knew we had a big project coming up called the junior paper, which is essentially just a large research-based essay/writing assignment that every student had to complete during their junior year. Since this was the final paper that I was going to have to write this year, and that will be graded as harshly as my teacher at the time graded, I figured that I should devote most of my free time and the time that I had in class to work on the paper just to prove to myself that I can get the result that I wanted to see when it came to improvements in my writing. I also figured that if I could succeed in this class, then it would give me a good foot forward for the next year and for the rest of my educational life. I decided to do my junior paper on the Great Depression and trying to prove that all the programs that President Franklin Roosevelt started and created during the time ultimately brought the United States out of the Great Depression. Every class period, while my friends were goofing off, turning the trash can into a basketball hoop for their paper balls, trying to see who would make it to the championships later on, I tried my hardest to stay on task because I knew that if I fell behind, I would be working at a disadvantage and I wanted to put my best foot forward. At my old school, we had this thing called Wolverine Time that was basically a free period where you could either hang out with friends, do homework, or talk to teachers about stuff you didn't understand. Every Wolverine time, from the time that the project was assigned until the time it was turned in and graded, I worked in the library doing the necessary research and putting it into my paper, whereas before I would just hang out with my friends. When the due date was nearing, I felt like I was prepared to turn in my final paper and that I was proud of what I was going to submit. The day that it was due, I woke up early to make sure that my paper would print out correctly, and I reread the rubric just to make sure that I would receive the maximum amount of points. When I actually turned the project in, I was so nervous but also so relieved that it was over and that I had presented the most polished, finished product that I could have. The day that we actually got our papers back, I had the same feeling of nervousness that I had experienced from before, which, when I first saw my score, quickly changed into relief when I saw that I had gotten an 85 on the most important paper that I had to write at the time and with a very strict grader. The determination and hard work, which I considered to be essential elements of the American dream, helped me do as good as I did on this project, just like the determination and perseverance of the American people during the Great Depression. From this point on, I learned the invaluable lesson of never being afraid to ask anyone for help, especially my teachers, because no matter how nervous I was initially talking to my teacher, it was super beneficial to me to gain the knowledge that she gave me. And to this day, I still understand that it is vital to ask my peers and my teachers for help when I don't understand something, especially for a course like English, which the lessons you learn today you will continue to use for the rest of your life.